Om Shanti. Good evening from here and good afternoon to those in the West. So I hope that the sound is clear and translation is fine. This subject is very fascinating, and I think there'll be a lot of newness. You might have heard of Max Planck, and he said science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature. And that is because in the last analysis, we ourselves are part of the mystery that we're trying to solve. So very interesting. And another quote, Einstein, he says the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence, and one cannot help but be in awe when contemplating the mysteries of eternity and life and the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. We often talk about this world as a gift, but this body is a gift and it's also a miracle. So it's nice when science and spirituality meet and agree on this fact. So I'm going to hand over now to Brother Prashant, and once again, warm welcome and hello to Prashant. Good evening.
And good evening. Let us create a few moments of silence again. And maybe just for a minute or so, we experiment with full concentration. And we see the sky beyond the sky. The expanse of light. And our aim here is just concentration. Eye of the mind is experiencing that region of light. We may come there with eyes open, eyes closed. Thank you. The subject and theme for this weekend is science and spirituality. We'll get lots of opportunities to look at this aspect of science in the light of spirituality, both ways, how science helps spirituality and what are the limitations of science. We'll try and see both. When you meet people, in all cultures and all countries, they want to know where does your knowledge, your experiences fit in with science. So we all need to know what is happening on that field, at least some basic understanding we need to have. So let us first quickly revise some basics that we have discussed in the past. I'm coming back to our board. And one thing we emphasize all along is the great emphasis on paras. We need to use the best intellect. We need to see in full light, in full sight. The reason at present, the real issue is darkness. Darkness of intellect. Recently, in the Murli, the expression city of darkness. So sometimes we use this image, and an eagle, he has word in the sky, and other eagles give this eagle the environment of darkness. It cannot see the sky. Then it is just left up with the earth, becomes dependent on the earth. And we use the image, becomes dependent on the animals and donkey. But darkness increases. And now he can't even see the eagle. And he sees the donkey as him. It is such a level of ignorance. Eagle in the sky not only becomes dependent on the donkey, but in that extreme darkness starts to believe he is the donkey. And all the limitations and problems of the donkey are his problems. And when you give the spiritual knowledge, his idea of knowledge is how to make the donkey virtuous. That is the big success for this in this state. All the institutions, governments, they are trying to improve the life of the donkey. What Baba is helping, what Baba is drawing attention is there is an eagle here. It is not a game of improving the life of the donkey, but there is an eagle. But in full darkness, that eagle is just a concept for everyone, those who are with spiritual ideas or otherwise. It is like even the whole world of science is within the limits of their darkness. In the darkness of ignorance, they are trying to come out with some answers for the donkeys. And so for us, the first step for any transformation is light of knowledge, light of truth. That is when we come across the word. What is the word we use for light of truth? Have you come across this word? What is the word Baba uses?
Hindi word, you mean?
Yes, the word Baba uses. Light of truth.
Prakash. Someone's written Gyan. Roshni.
Sure. Gyan, Roshni. Roshni is light. The word Baba uses is Sakash. Prakash is light. Sat is truth. So light of truth. Such a beautiful word. So it is not just a light, but we need here light of truth, because the darkness is of ignorance. So knowledge, we hear the knowledge, and it is best not to mix this knowledge with other things, because of all the other knowledge is not aimed for the ego. I'm talking here spiritual knowledge, religions. They don't have any idea about the ego and don't know that there is something that the eagle has to wake up and discover the life of the eagle. That is not there. So here Baba starts with Paras. We don't start with Patthar. It is not Patthar will gradually evolve into Paras. No, from the first second, start with Paras. As we use Paras, Paras will become stronger. This is a approach. And Paras necessarily means it involves refined intellect. This is another word we heard today in the Murli, refined. And it is able to see the subtle. It is also able to see the broad map. It is also unlimited intellect. It can handle eternity. It can handle the word unlimited. Paras. Patthar cannot. Paras includes that far-reaching intellect. And now Paras can see the physical world for what it is. That everything at the physical level has a limitation for us. It begins and ends. And it is absurd to expect some security at that level. Patthar can't even accept this. That's why they all are complaining about death and they are fighting death, because something that is obvious, they have not even seen it, and it comes as a shock. Paras sees that this is a temporary story, and he doesn't create attachments there in the first place, right from the body to everything. Paras helps the soul to become conscious. That's when we use the word invisible player, invisible prince. Patthar favors Ravan. Patthar intellect favors the ego. And so one ends up working at the level of the donkey. And donkey is nice, and donkey is getting some comforts, and donkey is praised. That is very important for the ego. Patthar is at that level. So at present, the culture is Patthar. It is not a rare situation. We give the example of eagle thinking itself to be a donkey, and now we can laugh at it. And it is happening as a extremely rare case. No, we got a society at that level. When Baba comes, that is what Baba is saying. Everyone has gone to such a level of darkness and absurdity that it has become normal for them. So if they see themselves as bodies, it is seen as completely normal. They see themselves as a role, everyone sees it that way. And within that culture, we have got Patthar religions, Patthar structure of society, but also Patthar medicine. It is completely ignoring the real you. All that is interested in is the body, how to keep the body alive, and body can be living longer. And they don't want to know anything beyond the body. But so also science. At present, the science is a Patthar science. It's not possible suddenly in a society where it is 100% Patthar. Suddenly science becomes a Paras science. There are scientists, who may speak language of this kind, like in some use the language. There is a science of the chicken and science of the eagles. This kind of language they use. So they know there is something more beyond, but it is like first we need yogis. Even someone may say, yes, there is science of Paras, but we need to become Paras. And at present, Paras is not strong. Everyone, if you have not used the muscles, those muscles are not strong. You can't suddenly run a marathon. Paras has to be made stronger. Every minute we use Paras, it becomes stronger. Our aim also here, we discuss, touch these subjects, but if we create a structure at home as a homework, and then you are very lucky. Those who do this, create a regular structure and revision, reminders, whatever that helps. If some sketches, words that help you, then they are useful. So let us create some opportunity now to come in that experience. But before we come, anyone want to add anything, say anything? And we encourage interaction. So feel free to type your comments, and those most of us know about this. But also we encourage more people to come in the light and sound, and in this case, light. The more we come in the camera, it becomes gathering, more interactive.
For what you highlighted, that other spiritual ideas are not favoring the ego. In fact, they don't know, which is, it can get quite subtle, because even language is soul, but emphasis is not on the wonder of the soul, for example. So then there's some struggle potentially. So it's good to watch that. Also the habits which have come from devotion, we may be struggling, but it's because we haven't fully understood knowledge and its application. So I was reflecting on that. But there aren't any comments right now. Other comments?
Yes. It can become like how to make donkey spiritual. So emphasis is so much at the donkey rather than, and helplessly, because the eagle is not even conscious to say that here I am. I have to look at me. What about me? Eagle is not there. So our big success here and hereafter is how to get this ego conscious and understand his complete independence from the body, role, drama, the whole thing. So if we get a glimpses there and help it to grow, that is a success. So right now, wherever we are, we see that the body is comfortable. We consciously tell the body to relax. And we understand we have the option to use paras. It is like creating full light. That means full clarity. In clarity, the physical world, we can see it for what it is. If it is a story, we see it as a story. And soap operas are stories. Cartoons are stories. Some doll show that these are stories. Stories, all of these are stories. Films, theaters, full of stories. This is just another story, no different to any other story. We are not meaning it metaphorical. It is really a story with episodes and they come to an end. Paras can see the world beyond the story. And beyond the story is the real world. Paras can see clearly it is the world of silence, but this is the important word. We use the word alokik, just different to the story world. Story world, the theater is made with very gross things. That's why physical, like cardboard world. Beyond the world is subtle, alokik. This is a world of complete silence. There is no noise of the story. And when we are in this dimension, we don't need to think of the story. In this world is the true family. They all are subtle. They all look like tiny stars, tiny points of light. But here is the family of souls, true family. They know that their world is timeless, eternal, and the world is beyond harm. Story cannot harm this world, not even the slightest. They all know this, that they are totally beyond harm. As a result, they don't have any reason for disappointment or even desire. They exist forever without any need. When there is no desire, no disappointment, what remains here is experience of joy and love forever. all in this world are beings who are divine royals. Divine because there is no demon, nothing inauspicious. And royal, they are full and they feel they got the best. This environment, Paras environment, helps the true self to become conscious. It is like creating this environment of light, bringing this light of truth. And in this light, the soul wakes up. This environment of Paras favors the soul. And he discovers he is also immortal. It is normal for him to be immortal. It is normal to be like this point. It is normal to belong to this supreme sky. It is normal not to need anything from anywhere. So different to ego-based life. Ego constantly has needs. He feels guilty not to beg. Whereas the invisible prince, he knows he needs nothing from anywhere. He is immortal without needing anything. He knows he has got the best. And naturally, egoless and harmless. A different game. This whole region is divya, divine and alokik. When there is no trace of Ravan, nothing inauspicious. Ravan's feelings, then the title divine comes. This region itself is divya and alokik. Everyone is worthy of love. Everyone is childlike. If they are desireless, they are also content. Innocent, harmless, carefree. This is the natural life forever. We are just seeing this. The true self understands he is very, very lucky. On one hand, he has got this great family, true family. He doesn't see this as a meditation experience. This is the life. He understands his complete independence from the story. Knows the story very well, but it is a story. Independence means nothing matters. Story begins, story ends. Dragon comes, dragon goes. That is the story. Invisible Prince knows his full independence from the story. But he also knows this is the world with the God. One who is the wisest and the highest. So in the image like others, but one who is always Paras. One who knows this truth always, but also knows everyone by their greatness. He sees the souls and loves the soul, serves the souls, acknowledges the soul, knows the eagle and doesn't settle to the donkey. Forever. Everyone else may go into darkness, he doesn't go into darkness. That's why highest and the wisest and the holiest. Forever Ravan free. That's why holiest. Richest. He knows the true treasures, experiences those true treasures, eternal treasures. Loveliest. He stays in this region of love. This is a region. Forever joy, forever love, everyone loving, everyone worthy of love. As we just experience this dimension, like in the last few minutes, that with concentration, we are seeing this halakic, the dimension beyond the story. Our attention is like light. It creates light, shines light. We are just seeing it. And in that process, we are making it easy for others to experience it. Even seconds, minutes, if we are just experiencing this, it is a lighthouse effect. And it is, we are talking about a global. This is world family, one family. This extends beyond the human clan. All are part of this family. And when we create light, all the souls, different parts of the world, message reaches, light reaches, will become easy for them to discover the world of the eagles. As was said, in the darkness, we can't help the eagles. It is not talk on light, that is not going to help the eagle either. But there has to be light. And you create light when you come in the experience. In Baba's words, let it be avyakta service through your avyakta form. So it is not the ego in a person will help the eagle in someone else. Now let the service happen from avyakt form. Thank you. So it will be nice to hear some thoughts from you and any comments. And then we'll come to discussion on science and what is happening in that world.
Maybe just one question about what alokik means. And we clarified in the chat it means unearthly. So is it a state of being? And what is the connection with science?
Sure. In a lokik is whatever happening within the drama, like right now here in Prashant and Cambridge and your cities. This is all lokik world and lokik relations and lokik jobs, whatever happening in the drama. That is the way we are using the word lokik. Whatever that is beyond the story, spiritual, the word we are using is alokik, which is very nice word. And a nice translation for this is unearthly. So here we have the alokik family and alokik home. Just means it is beyond the drama. That is, spiritual is the nearest word for it. But we use the word, softer word, alokik. Baba uses that word.
Yeah, thank you. There aren't any other questions right now.
Mm-hmm. So we'll come to the subject of science. And we'll be seeing some videos and some discussion on it. But let us come back to this main area to discover paras science. We have to make the paras stronger. I see this gathering here who have been making effort. We all are scientists, and we are going to contribute much more to this universe than Pattar scientist. Difference is you will be the Paras scientist. But for that, Paras has to become stronger. So those who are already getting exposed and interested in this, you can't help. No one wants some title from anyone else in this, some qualification or certificate or prizes. But you will contribute to this game in an extraordinary way if the paras is made stronger. Your experiment will continue every time you are playing with this. In the world of darkness, light brings magic. Light has results. And here your strength is truth and light. Sakash, that is such a powerful thing. Truth brings results, and in darkness, light brings results. And you are dealing with this. But today we'll see some of the work that is done by our present day science. And first we'll see one slide that we are seeing the research done in the Harvard University Mind Body Institute. We have heard in the past that Herbert Benson he's talking how in his research he sees meditators, their the cortex of the brain gets thicker. You heard that he's saying, and how the genetics are affected in meditators. But here is some other observations, and we will, if it is possible, to roll. Yeah, that in these cases, they teaches the subjects. Lots of them are either students or patients, or sometimes students from the town, and he sees what happens. And this is like a simple meditation. We are not talking about even soul consciousness, but different practices, but there is a result, in 4 minutes every day, but a period of 6 weeks, and chronic pains reduce, and will continue to move up at a speed. So there is approximately 50% reduction in relaxation response is a word he uses for meditation. Hypertensive is blood pressure problems. 80%. Can you see this? Have lowered blood pressure and decreased meditation. And 16% stop medications. "100% insomnia is those who have difficulty with sleep, not getting sleep, and they 100% reported improvement, but lots of them stop taking medications. They are doing research, and the conception rate improved, which means the hormonal system, that is getting normal. Otherwise, in this environment of stress, hormones were dysfunctional. So symptoms associated with menstruation and menopause, 57% reduction. We'll get this page in the G drive, so you will be able to access all these details. Yeah, excellent. Now we will see a video from one scientist. He was in Cambridge at one time, and then right now based in London, Clare College. He associates himself with Clare College here, and by name Rupert Sheldrake, and he's a biologist, and spent 7 years in India in the university work, and I exposed to spirituality in different ways. He himself is a meditator, and he has many interesting research. We'll talk about some of his research afterwards. But he wrote a book called Science Delusion, and it will be nice to see him also, and it is an interview with him. He's now a little more than 80, 81, that sort of age.
called The Science Delusion, which was a response to Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion. What is the science delusion?
Well, first I should say the title came from my publishers, not me. They thought it would sell more if it was pitched as a response to Richard Dawkins. I was dealing with a much bigger question than Richard Dawkins, namely the ideology of materialism. I mean, he's a proponent of it, so he's a good example of it. But the science delusion is the belief that science already understands the nature of reality in principle, leaving only the details to be filled in. And that understanding includes a number of dogmas or assumptions, which are nature's mechanical, matter's unconscious, the mind is nothing but the brain, mechanistic medicine is the only kind that really works, the laws of nature are fixed, and so on. I won't enumerate them all, but there are certain basic assumptions which are part of this materialist worldview. And the one that most affects research in medicine and understanding consciousness is the dogma that the mind is nothing but the activity of the brain. This fits with the idea that the body is nothing but a machine, and that leads to a medical system, mechanistic medicine, which thinks the only valid forms of medicine are drugs and surgery, chemical or physical treatments. Actually, the same science has proved that many other factors influence it, and they're often lumped together under the title the placebo response, which shows that people's expectations, hopes, feeling of being cared for, beliefs have a major effect on healing, sometimes as great an effect as drugs or surgery.
Are you talking about the soul there?
Well, I don't use the word soul because the word soul has so many different meanings. I'd have to spend 10 minutes trying to define what I mean by it. The mind will do. The mind clearly affects the body. I mean, just in the simplest thing, if I decide to lift my arm, my mind's affected my body. And our minds have effects on healing. I mean, if people are depressed, their immune system is much less active and they're less able to fend off diseases. And then there's the question of where the mind is. Is the mind just confined to the inside of your brain, or does it stretch beyond it? And part of my research, one of the reasons it's controversial, is that I think the mind stretches beyond the brain through fields, just as the activity of a magnet stretches beyond the surface of the actual iron bar that's the magnet. And the field of the Earth, the gravitational field of the Earth, stretches invisibly far into space and keeps the moon in its orbit. And I think our minds have fields. And I think when we look at something, like when you're seeing me now, I think the image you're seeing on your screen is not located inside your head, which is the official view. The official view is light goes through your eyes, into your impulses into your brain, and then you produce images inside the head. I'm suggesting that the image is where it seems to be, outside you. And if we look at somebody from behind, I think the fact our minds reach out and, as it were, touch them is an explanation for the rather mysterious phenomenon of the sense of being stared at, which over 90% of the population have experienced. So I think that's one of the dogmas that I look at. And I think that this idea it's all inside the brain, which is part of the dogma of scientism and the materialist worldview, leads to this extremely truncated view of human minds.
The theories that you've just laid out, I don't know whether they are defensible or not, or whether you have proven the case convincingly enough. I know some people will take different views than others. But I would certainly defend your right to put them out there and for it to be a legitimate discussion rather than a forbidden question. I know you've received one of your videos, a TED talk, I think it was removed because it was deemed to be in, I don't know, pseudoscience or something like that. Have you noticed that tendency that asking those kind of questions, investigating those areas is being shut down?
Oh, yes. I mean, this isn't just a personal opinion, it's a fact. I mean, if you look at a whole range of phenomena like the sense of being stared at, telephone telepathy, dogs that know when their owners are coming home, all of these areas I've investigated experimentally and published results in peer-reviewed journals. These things are not taught in science curriculums. In most universities, you couldn't possibly investigate these. There are 2 or 3 universities in Britain, in fact, fortunately, where you can, notably Northampton. But these are subjects which are considered completely taboo within the scientific world and branded as pseudoscience. And then believers in scientism and who've captured many parts of Wikipedia then edit all the pages to do with topics like this and also alternative medicine.
Should we pause there, Prashant?
Yeah, sure. So it is nice if you want to say anything, add anything, gives a good idea how some scientists are seeing things and the frontier of science. Here is a person who gives these very beautiful insights into the mind, and it has a very clear explanation also. I'll explain what he is saying. In his research and in the book, Being Stared At, what he did in these experiments, people, many experiments, but one experiment, someone is sitting in the front row in a theater, and he tells some subjects, individuals, to stare at someone. And the chances of the person whom he's staring turning around straight looking at a person, they are statistically very, very high. So what is exactly happening? And in different other studies, many say, yes, this is their experience. When they do this, people do turn around. They know someone is looking at them and they turn around. And this was told in the First World War, soldiers not to stare. If you look at, if you spot the enemy walking, don't stare at them because they will spot you. They will turn around, look at you. And so also in his studies, he sees, you think of a person and that person thinking of you, chances of he thinking of you are very high. And now because of the telephone and mobile system and internet, this is even more obvious. Someone is about to send you a text and you wake up. Some people wake up just before they receive the text. And they might not think exactly of the person, but some bell is ringing already, even before the text arrives. And these are like the many cases of this kind. So how do you explain this? And he says, he uses the word mind, but something within us extends beyond this body. And Baba uses the language vehicle of the mind, and that you can travel. But just traveling and staring at someone or reaching someone, that is one level. But Baba says, with this vehicle of the mind, you can go beyond this story world. The real purpose for us is come to the supreme home. It's a game of not even a second. You can come to the supreme home and experience this if you choose, and you reach there. God is a thought away from you. You suddenly realize so-called thought, it is not I'm thinking here and Baba is there, but you think and you reach there. It is empowering to know this. And when you meet Baba personally, Baba would be telling you about the time you remembered him. He would tell if the message is reaching, if the company is taken, so you create a thought and you reach and you meet and everything that follows from that. You also mentioned about the dog, and they know when the owner, and there are I personally have experience with some people here in Cambridge, and one lady, she had a dog, someone I know very well, and husband returning from some other country, but he was working for the embassy. So and during the wartime, he was traveling secretly. Even his wife did not know that he is arriving in this country. But dog knew. When he arrived Heathrow, wife knew. The dog behaves as if the Derek is coming. And when he arrived Cambridge, which is 10 minutes before he arrives home, the dog was at the door. So he has done research on this, and seeing what exactly is happening here, how some animals, with some parrots who speak the language, who have vocabulary, then that is also helping, because they can talk, they can tell you what they are seeing. Yeah, that is a bit of an interesting area of this research of the mind and what is happening on that field. But it will be nice to hear from you.
Yeah, this thing about the parrot, you shared it before, that the parrot knows who's going to ring, right? So they tell the name and then the person picks up and it is that person.
Yes.
Interesting.
So this one particular parrot, African grey, they are more into this. This parrot has a vocabulary of 800 words. And so when telephone rings, parrot already says, hello, Minto, and it is Minto who has phoned. But if it is Robert ringing, he already says, hello, Robert, and he already knows who is ringing.
This Rupert Sheldrake said, he gave the analogy of a magnet. So you've got the magnet, but that has a field. And so you were just talking about the mind reaching the home, and be nice to hear a bit more about that. Is it like a field, or have you said once before it's like an arm, and Baba calls it vehicle, but it's like literally you're sort of touching the mind is touching that. In this case, Minto is ringing, but in his mind, he's thinking first. He's like touching it with his mind. It'd be nice just to feeling.
If someone was physically in front of me, and I use a finger, touch him with a finger, he will turn around. But if he is 50 yards away from me, and in his studies, he observes that someone just seeing him intensely, as if he is being poked, as if finger is reaching him. So he's talking, there is this, it is not just a chance or some thought going somewhere. It is a nice model. We reach him and as if poke him, and that's why he is able to turn around. But same thing can happen to someone in another country. You are about to ring or send a text, and the person wakes up, from the sleep, and these chances are statistically very significant. And that person wakes up, and a few seconds later, the text arrives. In some cases, they know they are thinking of you already. Sometimes they don't know who is about to ring, but they have woken up. So it is as if being poked with a finger, but not with the physical, in another level. Now, this is a phenomena that is going on. What is our science? Our science is not at this level, not even helping at a physical health. That is not our aim. But the biggest thing that can happen is the eagle wakes up and discovers the eagle. Our aim is not to help the donkey, in the drama, become successful donkey, but the eagle. And so for this, the big formula for us is avyakta service through our avyakta form. So come in now in the avyakta form, and then we have the option to experiment. So every time you are just seeing this supreme home, you are there, and you are seeing this great family. We said you are creating light, and that light is benefiting. It is not just a nice hope, nice imagination, but you are reaching them. There is a language, and Baba uses the word lighthouse effect, and that will help the eagle become conscious, come out of that degradation of present time that is happening at the level of the donkey.
Thought came up that it makes it clearer how we have to be careful what you're thinking about, but also who is thinking about you. But what you just said, it seems like if you are focused and many times repeatedly coming back to the home, then you're actually pulling others there too. So even if they remember you, they are actually pulled. Otherwise, it could be like not nice to be woken up with text messages. And
yeah, if I ask you a question, we said earlier, 100% of the population, they are into Pattar, they are body conscious, they all are divine royals, they are subtle, they are godlike, they are from that eternal home, the life of bliss and love, but they are not experiencing it. They are just the opposite, begging for something and seeing themselves as victims. Why? Even though knowledge is there, maybe many people, many might have heard the knowledge and and agree with it, but still the time is spent in the body conscious camp. What do you think? What is the reason? They may know knowledge is there, they agree with it, but at a practical level, they are not experiencing.
Yeah, was one answer. Attention or lack of, maybe. Asleep spiritually.
Why? Why?
Someone's typed me. Because their attention is drawn to supports and comforts. The smriti or awareness is not there. The soul is silver-aged, lack of power, no experience, old habits, lack of faith, no realization. I might add ego and palate. Yeah, another ego's answer has just come to.
Yeah, along with all answers are right, but another factor, big factor, 8 billion other souls, their light, their attention is on the donkey. 100% of the population, others, they all are seeing, treating each other as a body. They're thinking of the bodily beings, but they're completely ignoring the eagle. Everyone around you, but 8 billion. The population of this planet will be 8 billion very soon. It is now almost 7.99. So no chance, even new souls are coming. Everyone is treating them as body, and so in such a world, the tide has to be turned around. There is as if hypnotic spell of this massive, human, human attention. But that's fine. If you yourself create this attention and hobby, and you have to go against the current, everyone else is ignoring you, ignoring the soul. Their focus is on the body and the role and what you are achieving in the donkey world. That is what their attention is. But you are creating time, using paras, come in your avyakta form. And that's why your light is immensely precious for others, because that light when the eagle is not there at the moment, not enough, and your light is precious, and it's the need of the present time. There are no answers at the level of the drama. There are no answers. It has limitations. Everything has an end there. And if someone is in that ego mind, then it is just suffering. So you come out of this and you help others come out. This is the need of the present. I know we will be having rooms very soon, but let us create another few minutes of practice. Is that okay? Sarah, want to add anything?
Yes, so it's just thinking about the basic assumption that Rupert was saying, basic premise it gets called, and I guess ego has taken security from that. Is that the explanation for why it's scientism in a way? It's become another potential web, even though it pertains to be seeking truth. But just if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so there are, it has become another religion there. But as we said, the structure is patthar, and you can't expect a lot. There may be some marginal changes, but which is great. They are at least questioning and and are trying to understand beyond. But we just need Paras culture and Paras science. So in this, let us come back to our simple practice again. And we have the option to go for Paras first, second. And Paras understands what happened in the last hour. That is also theater and drama. What happened today, it happened in a drama, in the story. But great fun. There is the world beyond the story. And that world is world of God and world with the God. The invisible player understands he is very, very lucky. To start with, he knows his complete independence from the story. There is nothing to worry about. And he understands he is in the world of truth. Until then, he was in the story and seeing story as his world. Like such an absurdity and waste of life. Now he's in truth. This is a world of immortality. He knows everyone is safe and everyone is noble. They all are good, worthy of immense love, worthy to be loved by God. That's why this dimension is the world of disbelief. Everyone is happy and everyone is loving forever. Such is this world. Positive universe. You know, what does it mean, positive? Universe is benevolent, beautiful, and the best. Every aspect is the best. That's why natural nature of everyone is happiness and contentment. That is the stuff they are made of. They all are godlike beings. Even the universe, for the one who is conscious, universe is a different universe. There's also a universe in the story. That is what the astronomers are trying to research. But that is a universe in the story. When the invisible player is conscious, he knows the true universe. As we continue on our journey, we remember the beautiful truth. immensely beautiful truth of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to take a room break, and Prashant, would you like to suggest a question?
What are the steps to become a scientist, to become a parascientist? What will be your steps, and what are your research programs?
Your research programs. Okay, sounds fun. I'll just put that in the chat. And I want to mention we have a very special surprise guest after the break. So do enjoy the rooms or a short stretch, and we'll be joining back around past. So we'll put the question in the chat. Enjoy this chance to meet. See you shortly. So warm welcome back to everyone. Just wait a few moments. Everyone is leaving the room. So today we're going to go straight to our speaker who will be sharing, and very happy to introduce Brian Josephson, who is a physics professor at the University of Cambridge and was awarded Nobel Prize in Physics in 1973. And he met Baba in 1985, and until very recently, until lockdown, was joining weekly Merly reading group in his space. So have fond memories. And today, joining us, I'm not sure if on holiday still or back in Cambridge. But,
no, back in Cambridge.
Oh wow! So
yeah,
that's great.
Good time.
Yes, in good
For
time.
the eclipse, I could send you the eclipse picture if you like.
Yes, I can show everyone that. It was a great picture of the recent eclipse that was just sent. Brian will share a bit about mind and meaning within physics. So yeah, good evening and really nice to see you.
Okay, can I start now? I'll
Yes.
look at my notes. Well, as Sarah indicated, I've been working on mind and meaning for quite some time. If you want to follow details, some you'll find on ResearchGate papers, and you'll find videos of some of my talks on my YouTube channel. And I guess if you search for me on either of those locations, you'll find these. Okay. Well, thing I've been interested in for a very long time, since the 1970s, certainly, into how mind fits with physics. Just an adjustment here so my screen doesn't disappear it's quite so readily. That's very strange. That seemed to make my text disappear, which is distinctly annoying. Well, anyway, I'll try and remember. Yes, 1930s, I was interested in how mind fits into reality, I suppose, and that's because of paranormal phenomena. For example, you can use the mind to move something, and that doesn't really well, physics tends to deny it, but anyway, it isn't there at all. So yeah, I got interested in that, and one thing paper I did quite soon after that was on the relationship between mind or biology and quantum mechanics, a quantum realm. So a quantum realm is what is described by regular physics, that's quantum theory, and mind and biology is biology. Sort of parallel you have is that the role of observation in quantum mechanics, observation makes things definite, things which are rather blurred before become definite. Similarly, in biology, you have well, you observe and then make a decision, and what was initially a possibility or one of possibilities then becomes real. So that's the parallel. So it did seem that somehow biology is built in, but there must be something deeper, because biology treats things in a different way. You sort of say how things happen. Well then, so problem then was how was to try and get some physics out of this. Well, one interesting point is that there seems to be a two cultures type situation. Biologists don't really concern themselves with the quantitative side of reality as physicists do. They don't try and predict numbers. They talk about functions. So one really ought to try and bring these two cultures together. And one thing, so it's really a question of bringing in biologists' ideas. And one of these is coordination dynamics, that two systems learn to work together as a result of a feedback process. So that's a kind of physicist type ideas, which you could add to physics. The idea is you have some kind of background upon which quantum mechanics is based, and quantum mechanics would come out of things like coordination. Also, as a science of meaning, which is quite complicated, that a symbol somehow develops a meaning. So in other words, these approaches in biology which are not really taken into account by physicists. There's one person in particular who did do physics originally for a PhD on particle physics, theoretical particle physics, and she's written a book. I'm talking about Karen Barrard, and so she's developed a great lengthy idea that the kind of things that happen at in societies or communities, how things, the processes by which they work together, apply at a fundamental level. So she's developed that in great detail. That's sort of how it all works, basically. So I think that sort of summarizes what I want to say. So move on if people have questions.
Yes, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Brian, do feel very welcome to put in the chat. When you were talking about the role of observation in quantum, it made me think of the double split experiment, and we can either share it in the drive or watch that. Is it similar? Where something is observed, but they put the experiencer and it can change the outcome. It's my layman's understanding. Is that similar to what you were talking about?
Yes, Barrard takes Niels Bohr's ideas, which are not very well, tend to be ignored. People like just to do a calculation, but Bohr said it's the total situation, the apparatus is what makes observation possible. So she talks about apparatus as something more general. So a question then is what constitutes apparatus. I should mention, by the way, since this is about science and spirituality, that we hope to fit a deeper level into this and raise the question of where does life come from? Where does the universe come from? So the idea is there's some deeper mind that deeper mind does things like determine the situation of universe, like what universe is will be good for life, and also life will develop from that. And there's an element of intelligent design, which is of course fatal. But since I've retired now, they can't do anything to me through advocating intelligent design. But a lot of people, I read an article recently which said there are 7 Nobel laureates who more or less favor intelligent design by whatever a designer might be.
But this is an interesting area where your beliefs or feeling or understanding has had to be kept quiet until retirement.
Well, not really, because I think it was Nobel. Well, for the start, I had tenure once I got a professorship back in '72, I think, and then the Nobel Prize sort of means people can't really suppress me, though they can write hostile articles, as some people do. The people who know me in Cambridge, like the fellows of Trinity, they don't think I'm odd. They think I'm a perfectly normal person. But it does mean that what you do will get ignored. But I'm hoping that, well, there's this paper I mentioned, which was published in the journal a few years ago and says some of our ideas. And I hope that once we've shown how things work, there may be more interest in that. It seems a number of people are pondering this question of how, whether there's something behind ordinary physics. Like John Wheeler, a famous physicist, had the idea that everything depends on the distinction between subject and object. So subjects are fabricating form, as he puts it. But then that was rather ignored and people thought he was talking nonsense. Similarly, Wolfgang Pauli, he had sort of ideas about, well, he worked with Jung, I believe, on the mind. And what was the idea? Somehow, anyway, he had some deep ideas. So some people had these ideas, but the question is, when is the old paradigm going to be become obsolete?
Yes, there's we watched a bit of Rupert Sheldrake, and he's saying there are these basic premise, but they've become basic assumption, so that needs to change. Maybe we have time for one question, and it was connected to what Rupert was saying. What is happening with telepathy? Is that a physical or metaphysical phenomena, or anything you'd like to say about that?
Well, I don't see that it can really be metaphysics, because metaphysics is just something you talking about how things are. Of course, there are people who just dismiss telepathy, ignoring the evidence. I believe Rupert Sheldrake was talking about that earlier on. And then this question, is it mind or matter? And actually, one interesting thing about Barad is that she says, in effect, you have discourse or what you're saying and matter, and essentially mind is shaping matter, whereas matter is a substrate that sort of whose activity generates mind. So that's a way to make a division if you want it. As I see it, well, it's something happening in consciousness, and then you find something happening in consciousness, either picking up someone's mind or being aware you can influence something. But it's I don't see these distinctions as being very important. It's you're doing science or possibly partly philosophy in any case, and these divisions are just matters of personal preference and what you find most useful to do.
Yeah, thank you. There are quite a few questions, but we might arrange another session because they are going, each one probably requires a proper discourse. So really helpful to have some expertise on these. Prashant, would you like to say anything at this stage?
Maybe I can ask another question. And earlier, Sarah had read a quote by Max Planck, and he mentioned, we ourselves are mystery. So it will be nice to hear from Brian, the mystery that you see, in what are the mysterious things for you?
Sorry, which mystery?
He said, we ourselves are mystery, he says, Max Planck.
Hmm.
But what are the mysteries for you?
What are the mystics, or what is
Mystery.
We ourselves are a mystery, like we don't really understand
What are mysteries?
Mm.
Well, I guess mystery is what I'm trying to work on, exactly how these interconnections work. It's well, they're just various things that are not really very well understood. What is some kind of basis behind it all, and the question is, how does it work? There's a point that actually there's a distinction between knowing something by feelings and being able to express it in words, to articulate it, and that's really a rather difficult thing. Like writing papers are complicated things. You have things in your mind and you want to in some way clarify them. There's a mysterious thing about how articulation clarifies it, because articulation is quite a mysterious process. It's most people think that this meaning is a simple thing, but actually it's a thing that develops through usage. Language and so on is something that's convenient, and it's a sort of mysterious process which brings things to mind which would not otherwise be in the mind. And that's again a bit mysterious, but it's something one is aware happens, but then when you try to talk about how it happens, then the question is, how does that happen?
Yeah, thank you.
Very tangible. Thank you, Brian, and very welcome to stay on. And I've noted the questions that we didn't get a chance for, and perhaps we can find another moment for you to articulate some thoughts. But thank you so much, and really nice to have this to meet.
To contribute. You're finishing fairly soon, I suppose, are you? You said 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, yes.
Right, well, I'll stay around and listen to the rest of it and watch it. Yeah.
We'll also have a drill from Baghdad, so those were the lockdown recordings, so that would be nice. Thank you. So we're going to hand back to Prashant, and
yes, and let us see if there are any questions before the break or during the break. Anything?
well, one question, just a slightly practical one. When we were watching the video, this came. Oh no, the facts from the institute
Sure.
in Harvard. Are strong medications for patients with terminal illnesses like the chemotherapy, are they harmful to the soul?
No. There is what is really harmful for the soul are our indulgences, our vices. They are the harmful, and the therapies, like say any kind of, maybe most of the medications have some side effect, and that is just settlement of the karma that happens either through illness or through treatment, but it is a settlement. Some 25% of the admissions in some cities hospital admissions are directly because of the side effect of treatment. So chemotherapy is just one of those where the side effects are very severe and sometimes can be as bad as the illness. So that is all, but it is a settlement. It doesn't harm the soul. If at all, even the pain, and it removes the burden from the soul.
That's interesting. Yeah, happy to hear any follow-up comments on that. You were saying before the break that one reason for our consciousness is the pull of the collective to, you called it like the donkey world, but physical world, and we're all treating each other as bodily beings. Is this why in the knowledge it is emphasized to remember God alone? Is this a way to come out of this like gravity of the collective?
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is like as if a collective spell. If everybody is treating you in a certain way, then you are influenced by this. We know this. If someone is treating you in a certain role, then you are influenced. One person treating you in a certain way, you are influenced. If the whole country was not to accept someone as a king, then what can he do? He may be king, but if no one accepts him, he has to drop the notion of being a king. So same thing happens here. Collectively, everyone is absolutely ignoring the soul, except for the supreme, Father. He is staying with that 100% clarity and with that attitude and vision. So to be in that company and with that vision, that is like a lifeline for us at the present time. And then from that, you are able to give that sustenance, support to others. We are emphasizing the whole world, there are many charity organizations who are helping at a gross level, but no one is helping at the level of the eagle. They are all helping at the level of the donkey. So if you become, the one who is awake at that level, even intermittent, you are helping yourself and helping others. Just want to add, in this, in the recent Murli, we heard less expense, greater results, greater glorification, less time, but more success, less words, but more clarification, less thoughts, but let there be powerful thoughts. Now, less expense, it is a great idea, but to get big results, we need a higher consciousness. In our ordinary consciousness, less results and less expense, there will be less results. But how do you make up for this? If the consciousness is the highest, if the intellect is seeing things differently, then the game is different. So what was emphasized? Let there be this avyakta experience yourself. You just come out of that ego-based awareness. Use paras, go beyond that story world. And then it is avyakta form. Through the avyakta form, your attitude, your vision, your thoughts, everything will have results. So that statement, through your avyakta form, then you do the avyakta service. Then you are fulfilling that program, less expense, greater splendor.
It helps because it gives depth to this point that you can only help to the level of your consciousness, to the level of your understanding, and to the level of your experience. And there is the biggest help is, I guess, winning over Maya with her side streets and using the power of knowledge. So this is it's interesting. Maybe there are some follow-up thoughts. There is a question that came out. What's the fundamental element that we primarily work with? Question from Ireland.
And is this a question for Brian?
Sounds like it. It got repeated, so I thought maybe you want to comment, but Brian can also share.
Experience.
Yeah, that's nice. We are working with experience, and maybe we want to move to the subtle and alokik experiences. Ordinarily, everyone is experiencing and they want some kind of a pleasure, but they are staying at a gross level. Our attention is moving to another level. Donkey will have priorities at one level, eagle will have priorities at another level.
Of course, ideas are, experience isn't the same as perception of the world, and as ideas, and as Prashant is just saying, there are different levels of ideas, but there are mathematical ideas and the Platonic realm maybe, and how that connects with spirituality is not so clear. Perhaps the different realms work together in some way.
It's interesting how the understanding of zero came in maths. That helped create the structure, and we also have this importance of zero in spirituality.
There's a rather nice quote from Wheeler. He says, God is saying to man, you wouldn't exist without me. Man is saying, you would not be known without me.
Yeah, that summarizes. Nice. Yes. There is a question, I don't know if it's something it's very easy to answer, but would you connect entanglement theory to the drama and the audience?
Okay, to answer that as well. Yes, entanglement seems to be extremely important. It's emphasized by Dean Radin. I think he's written a book about it. So physics has discovered simple versions of it, like when a system splits into two, then the two are entangled. We thought that was something rather special, but now it is. It seems that to explain how biological systems perceive, you have to add entanglement. It may really be extremely widespread that you get entangled with everything you're conscious of, and this is a strange kind of entanglement you have in quantum theory. It's a kind of deep connection.
This earlier, when where your mind goes, you're connecting to, so that sort of feels like you have to be careful what you think about, otherwise you're saying you're getting potentially mixed somewhat. Prashant, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, it's part of the whole picture, these connections. And I think one needs to think differently. And that's part of the trouble with paradigm changes, that people are fixed on a particular paradigm and they are unable to think differently, as you would need to do to move on from there.
Maybe there's hope in the new generation because they haven't invested so much in the old system. Prashant, did you want to add anything on this entanglement?
No, this, as Brian said, it's more widespread and very fascinating, that area, and to discover to simplify that complexity.
Yeah, one thing on a conscious level is just to realize one is sort of connected to what's around one, and maybe briefly one can see one's body as just a little part of the whole.
Yes.
Excellent. So now we will have some transmission. We'll hear great time for meditation. We'll listen to Baba.
Yeah. And I've just put in the chat the link to the recordings, which will be uploaded very soon. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone, to Brian and Prashant, and everyone's contribution, your presence. So we're going to create some time for drill from Madhavan.